Hi, I'm Jennet Ingle, the 5-Minute Read Maker. If you're watching this on YouTube, could you go ahead and click subscribe so that you never miss an episode? Today's episode is a read repair shop session. I'm looking at 3 reads of Sally's, and while they all look really nicely constructed, they are fully to spec from all appearances, but honestly they are not actually perfect, and they all 3 looked a little bit different, so I did not realize when I started that the exact same fix was going to fix all 3 of them. I sort of love it when I can identify something that is a purely consistent problem across reads for someone, because it really makes it possible for them to take that information and run with it, hopefully, and like never have those particular problems again. So I'm hoping that this is helpful for Sally in her read making going forward. The 3 of these look so nice. They're structured beautifully. I can identify all of the parts of the read, and yet they are not all fantastic reads yet, so let's see if I can improve them. This is the one that was labeled 37 down at the bottom of the tube. Unfortunately, your markings got a little washed out by the alcohol bath I gave these, but that is what happens in our age of COVID, so sorry about that. As I play this read, it has actually a really nice crow. For me, it sits a little bit up in pitch. It's not giving me a lot of depth of sound. And as I measure it, I do see that your wind is at about 47 3/4. You're definitely over a little tiny bit, so that's certainly a concern. But all of the other measurements that you've got going on in this read look good to me. But as I pop my plaque in, here's what I see. On this blade, there's a clear-cut rooftop here, and then there's your rooftop, but there's quite a lot of sort of snow over it, as you can see here on the left side. On the other blade, I feel as though the rooftop is even a little less well established. Again, I can see sort of where you were going here, but then there's some snow above it. And this side is also a little bit vague. I'm not so sure that the corner up here is the very thinnest part. And so what I'd like to try to do with this read specifically is just to redefine that rooftop the tiniest bit, to make it a little bit more clear and to take care of the material in the tip on the left-hand side, and make sure that my slope is really excellent. So here I am, I'm just going from your rooftop, fixing that transition area a little bit, and then going on to sort of pet the kitty all the way out to the corner. Making sure that the corner is the thinnest part. Over here, I'm just doing the tiniest bit of clarifying right down at that transition area, and then going up to the tip. Other side, same deal. Because my concern is just that area between the actual rooftop that you intend and the place where the snow leaves it, I can start with a very tiny cut in right in that area, and then just pat the kitty till we get up to the top. And then do another little bit over on the right side to take care of, to keep things symmetrical. And let me just see what that did. I feel like the crow got immediately a little bit more purified, and I haven't touched anything yet on this read below the rooftop. I'm not wild about the sound, but did you hear how the pitch came down and the sound got more fullness? There's more depth and there's more sort of density in the sound, whereas before it sat a little bit shallow, it sat a little bit up, and I wasn't quite finding the good part. Now it's all good part. For me, this feels a little bit easy, and as I said, I don't like the sort of hollowness that goes along with it, so I'm going to clip just a tiny bit and see if that does everything we need. Brought the crow back up. Well, I like the stability up high. I like the easy response, and I like the depth of sound, the amount of sound. But I still feel like I'm not wild about the quality of the sound, and I feel like that's coming from a certain amount of thinness up in this sort of area, mostly on this side. So what I'm going to do after I do what I'm going to do next is reestablish the sides or the thinnest part up here. But I'd also like to see what happens if we dig out a little bit behind the heart here and just try to find a little bit more depth here, thickening the heart by opening the windows below the heart. Just a little. I'll play that first, and then, as I said, I'm going to go back to the sides of the tip on this lower blade. I like that that dropped the crow a little bit, enabling me to clip, probably. What I'm definitely feeling is, again, more depth of sound, more depth of tone. Let's see. Yes, I said clip, but first I'm going to do the sides of the tip here on this blade. And when I do, because the problem really is that the center is thin, not that the sides are too thick, but I can't put thickness back in at the center. So I'm just going to give my focus to the rightmost 3 grains over here, all the way to the tip, and the leftmost 3 grains over here, all the way to the corner. And now a clip. That, to me, is a much more balanced reed. You'll notice that my clip itself is pretty ugly. My block rather is a little bit beat up, and I caught some sort of divot in it. But I love the way this reed feels. It's responsive right away because we've gotten the corners to be thin enough, and it has a really nice balance between the tip, the heart, and the windows, so that everything does feel in balance. Even though it is overwound, I am not having a problem with this reed. I really like the way it sounds and feels. So that's your reed number 37. Here's this other reed, which had a 3, but it also had something that might have been a 65. And again, I'm sorry that that got a little smeared. And this reed also felt immediately heavy to me when I crowed on it. Let's see if that's still true. It's quite open. You can see that opening here. It's very strong. I can't even quite smoosh it mostly because the spine feels so sturdy in here, which, you know, is a good thing. You've left a really good quality spine, but you can see it from almost every angle here as we rotate. Very strong spine. And as I go to play this reed, the crow's a little disorganized. What I do really like is that it's very stable. It plays itself in tune really well. But I think we can probably agree that the sound is a little more, it has a little less core than we want. It's a little brighter than we want. I actually really like I know I criticized the opening, but it feels good. I just want the sound to get tamed a little bit. So when I put the plaque in and look at this reed, what I see again is that the middle of this tip feels just as thin as the side. And as I track this rooftop, this looks good to me. But now I feel like your snow problem is happening on the right side rather than on the left. I feel like there's a lot of bulk right in there. On this blade, there's your right-hand side. It's quite nice. And your left a little bit does this. So if you're seeing the symmetry problem, sorry, let me make sure I'm in the screen. If you're seeing the symmetry problem, that is the thing I'm going to try to correct. And if you can see how when I press the plaque against it, especially on this side, I think, I don't see that the edges of the tip are any thinner than the center. And that is the entire reason for the very bright sound that you've got here. And I think if we can fix that, we've got a reed in here. So I'm going to do exactly that. First of all here, because there's some extra snow on top of the rooftop. And then second of all, attention to that rightmost few grains. And the ones on the left. You've seen me do this before. Sorry, let me dip it for just a second. It's getting dry. You've seen me do this before, so you know that what I'm thinking about doing is pressing with the side of my left index finger, my non-dominant finger, backwards against the knife. As I let my knife angle over the side. So I'm really putting my focus on those edges. Other blade, I'm happy with the right-hand side. Just making sure that the side and corner is thin. But on the left, I'm going to redo your cut in just a little bit. And then focus on the very outside. These reeds are so close to being just like absolutely fine. It's interesting that I lost the crow altogether when I did that. I'm going to clip a tiny bit before I go hunting for it. And there's my crow again. So I feel like we've improved the sound, but I'm not in love with the stability. And now that we've got the tip vibrating really nicely, I feel like I'm very aware of the openness of this back in my mouth. So tempting to me. Ooh, Lordy, do you see? I can even see that there's some shininess right in the spine here, where it's literally still bark. I feel like we're going to do a little bit in the windows, just like we did with your first reed. I want to open up behind the heart. Right there. And it's not that I'm scraping away the spine exactly. I'm scraping in the window, but I'm allowing my knife to transgress toward the center just a bit. Here it comes again. And when I work in the windows, I feel like the effect I have, the effect I expect, is that this work should strengthen the heart to give it a better amount of resistance. Because I'm taking away some of the spine, I feel like the opening of the reed is going to be a little bit smaller. So the whole thing is going to rebalance. The tip and the windows are going to be differently balanced. So I may need to go back to the tip, or I may need to clip a little bit. Let's find out. It's interesting that scraping there actually seems to have brought the crow up. Again, it's because scraping in the windows strengthens the heart. The heart is stronger, so it's a better balanced reed. Are you hearing how with every scrape, or with everything we do, this is actually getting darker and darker in what I hope is a good way. I like it. I'm going to do one more tiny bit of balancing the very, very top of this reed. So again, the far left, far right sides of the tip, just because I want the response to be a little bit easier. And I'm always looking to see if I can get more slope happening, which specifically, I mean, making sure that the left and the right sides are the thinnest part. But it's very subtle what I'm doing to these reeds, right? There's not a lot wrong. There it is. Just making very sure that the corners are the thinnest part and that the sides are the thinnest part. I don't like that crow, so I'll clip one more time. Now that is a reed that is balanced, that is responsive, that is easy to play, that plays in tune and has a really nice sound. And all I did on both of these reeds really is an improvement of the sides and corners of the tip, a little bit of attention to the symmetry of the rooftop, and then I took more out of the windows right below the heart to give the heart a little bit more strength. Okay, now this last one, the one that doesn't have any label on it at all, looks very different to me. I feel like I don't see a strong delineation between the windows and the heart, and I don't see a strong rooftop here. It's all sort of very vague. It's got a little bit of a flat crow. And it plays noticeably flat. And I think what's going on here is that you've taken too much out of your heart, which just has caused everything else to drop. Whereas these guys had nice, strong hearts that I was able to reinforce and do more with the windows and the tip to make the heart even stronger. This one is much more scraped through, much more lengthwise. And I think the way to, and it's interesting also because the tip itself looks so much visually heavier than those on your other reeds. There we go, if you can see that. So there's just fewer sections to this final reed. And it looks like the tip has been less scraped and the windows have been less scraped and the heart has been more scraped. So as you probably will have guessed by now, what I'm going to do is work aggressively in the tip and in the windows to try to re-strengthen the heart and try to bring this reed into balance. And it feels like at this moment a little less promising than the others because it's so thin in the heart. But the question is going to be whether we can fix that by balancing everything else to a lower place. So if you can see how aggressively I'm cutting in, there is a lot of wood to take out of this tip. I'm not going to mess with the windows yet. Let's do tip first. So an aggressive cut in, then attention to the sides, all the way up to the corners. And hopefully this is visible and I'm not just migrating off of the screen. There is a lot of material that I just took off of that. And I can clip a little bit right away. I even want to clip more. And even before I go back into the windows, I think I've done something good here. Let's see. This reed still sits flat. The cane feels soft. It feels a little flabby. I still think the heart is too thin, but I'm gonna go into the windows now. Let's see if we can get enough out behind the heart to make the heart think it's thicker, to bring it back around. And like, honestly, I think the fundamental issue is either that this cane is very, very soft, which, you know, sometimes you get a soft piece, or that you've scraped too much through the heart. Might have happened in your long scrape, might have happened when you were trying to get vibration early on. But I think your fundamental issue here was a heart too thin. Bringing the crow up carefully by clipping. So there's still a little bit of squirreliness in those upper left-hand notes. A, B, C, da, 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 da. And because I've clipped a bunch of times, I'm going to go one more time into the tip to see if I can make sure that the corners are the thinnest. Because, you know, sometimes you clip into thickness, even with all of your good intentions around slope. But I kind of think that this is what we can do with this reed. One more clip. I just keep going in. I'm thinning everything but the heart, looking to try to bring this back into balance. I like the crow now, or at least I like it better. So this reed continues to be by far the easiest of your reeds. These two actually came to a really nice balance, but in all three cases, I think I scraped and dug much more aggressively than you at the very sides and corners of the tip and in the windows behind the heart. But on the whole, these are really beautifully structured reeds, and they're working. I really like the way these first two are functioning now, and this one is a thing to learn from, is what I would say. This has been a reed repair shop episode of the 5-Minute Reed Maker. If you wanted to have your own reeds looked at by me and a video created about them, you can find information about that on my website, jennetingle.com. which is also where you could order reads or cane, or reach out to me through my email address, which is there, and ask me a question or something that could be usefully answered in a short video session going forward. Thank you so much for watching. Have a great day.